anything unclear? How do you feel?
I'm feeling good.
What do you do when you go back home? Forget about all of it?
No.
We're going to act upon this.
Build upon.
Send the grand jury and the default judgment to everyone.
Alright, yeah, as Angela is saying, the grand jury in the Supreme Court case is for all of you to use. Don't let it go to waste. You may not find yourself directly into it, especially the grand jury, but you can use it. There's a very important line, and I'm going to get it before we get started. Again.
That's Irish's.
How many minutes left on this one? Oh, 45? Okay.
Yeah, don't record yet.
No, I won't.
This
I'll
is,
go like this when you've got 5 minutes left.
Thank you. Alright, so this is a bit off topic. Even if at the same time it's directly into it, but it's off topic, the presentation, right? I got the Supreme Court document here. This is the original, one of the original. This is one of the most powerful documents ever produced in Canada outside the Constitution, of course, which is the Supreme document. I've got a default judgment here from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court default judgment received a different stamp than the one, and you can check it here. I'm going to ask a volunteer. Paul, why don't you step up forward, please? Might as well get you involved before you get bored. I will ask you to read this one and put your finger here so I don't lose it.
Okay. Supreme Court of Canada received by the registry June,
Get the mic on.
2017.
So June 5, June
Je
6.
suis par le greffe
Yeah, receive at the registry.
Cour de Supreme.
Now put your finger there.
Okay.
Read that one.
The Supreme Court of Canada filed August 17, 2016.
So that's the difference, ladies and gentlemen. Something that is filed is something that is classified. It's done. It's in the file, right? It's archived.
This one is received, this one is the filed one.
Yeah.
That's a default judgment. So we received a different stamp on that day, and I was telling the registrar at the front desk there, why don't you take out your other stamp for this one? This is a default judgment. Filed. It's complete. It's done. Nothing more goes on top of it. This is a default judgment. So this first page here is the introduction when we first got there to launch the court procedure. That's the last document, the default judgment. And if you check it out here, there's many pages of people or party that been summoned, but I told you it was only 4-page thick. So here it starts, the default judgment. One, 2, 3, 4 pages. That's the default judgment. There's nothing else. So they can't say we went overboard and we presented a file so complicated no one can understand. It's 4 pages and they're not even filled. So you can see it here. It's all in French, of course. I'm not going to translate all of this, but I'm going to read from the grand jury's judgment that we've got.
And one thing important we have to know is that they never believe, we are not lawyers, so they didn't care about simple people who would try to make justice or tell the truth. They did not believe us. So that's what they got. That's what we got from them.
So the people of Canada declared in 2015 in front of a grand jury, declare, and I'm going to translate so it's going to be loose, criminal organization, the Commission Santé et Sécurité au Travail, which is acting contrary to the mandate that was given through the LATMP after 10 days of consecutive calendar day. Declare criminal organization the National State of Quebec under the direction of the Monocameral Assembly National 10 days after they received this judgment. Declare valid the Constitution of Canada under the BNA Act of 1867 and of course included all of the document included to that, and the recognizance of the common law. So this is the thing that you can all use. If Quebec is illegal, that means that one province is not abiding by the Constitution. All the members of the House of Commons in Ottawa are illegal. They are sitting illegally in the House of Commons, therefore disbanding Canada. If 67 members of the House of Commons are illegal, the rest of it is illegal as well, because they're part of the crime.
So how can that be enforced? Or, you know, like, how can that be changed? Why is it allowed to continue like that?
Because the crime of fraud can go on for as long as it's not discovered.
Ça,
It's all de facto.
Ça, c'est le renvoi de la Cour suprême à RCS 217.
They know about it. You didn't, you.
It's called the principle of effectivity. They will rape you until you say, oh, that's enough.
Yes, a crime
If
can
you
go
don't say
on
anything,
for as
it will
long
go on
as it's
and on
not
and on.
discovered.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. I can be a thief, I go through your house, you don't know who it is, I'm gonna go through his house, and then through her house, and then Paul's gonna be there and he's gonna recognize me. Ah, I've got picture, I've got 3 cameras, I've got two neighbors. You idiot came in while we were having a party, 20 people, you got your... Then I got caught. Am I responsible if they link to you? Yes. If they don't link it, I got away with stealing it through your house. That's how it works. This is the second most powerful document, but in fact it's more powerful than the other one. This is the original, ladies and gentlemen, of the Claim of Right that was done in the name of King Denis I 2 years ago. It comes to an expiry at the end of this month. This is why we are here today. So we're going to take the next step now. It took 2 years between his coronation and today to get you delegate from all of the country. His mandate is to abide by the Constitution and present it to you. So that's why the next step this afternoon is to read the Constitution so you know what you're signing on. The Act of Union is a little bit different. I need one free person, but we're going to get into that in the presentation, from each province who wants to be part of Canada. Then what's the social contract? The Constitution. And if we change the Constitution to anything, if we change a single word in it, I'm no better than the idiot in Quebec. Because they're spitting on the Constitution. Here it is. There's 11 infractions from just the Legislative Council of Quebec not being formed. A province on its own is never and was never granted the power to be a country. They have to abide by this because the Constitution belongs to the...
The Constitution of Canada does not belong to the Parliament of Canada, neither to the legislature of the province. It belongs to the country, and it is there that the citizens of the country will find the protection to which they are entitled.
Good job.
Yeah, awesome. Hear that, people?
Like Constitution of Canada.
So back to the claim of right. We're going to talk about this briefly, but like I said, this is a kind of in bracket. We've claimed the country, we claimed the land of Canada under the crown of Denis, but it still belongs to you, the people. This is why the people sign an act of union. He is not your king. He's a king of the country, which is different. He's serving who? He's serving you. Not the other way around. You're not subject to the king.
You're not staying on.
No. No. Only the government is subject of the king. And the corporation to whom he issue license to. So that's why, if they've been illegal, every license that they've provided is illegal as well. I don't have anything to do. I don't have to put Monsanto to a trial. Just look at their license. Who did you get from? Oh, Ottawa. They're illegal. Does it make it legal that Al Capone comes to me and say, go and get the money in the bank? That's it. Ready?
Ready.
Precious Assistance is gonna take us through with the next part. So part 2, let's launch the recording please. Alright, we're on. So we're learning from the grand jury process. What I just said here is part of it. It is the big part of it, of course, discovering all of these things. Where does that come from? Let me just do this little comment because it's in the Constitution. It's not really a comment, but it's my own word. So everything that was valid before the Constitution was repatriated, still valid after. Every power that came with the conquest and with Britain and with the constitutional monarchy is still valid to this day. And everything that dates their own constitution, because England doesn't really have a written constitution, it's more traditional and status and fact and act that they've done through the parliament, still valid to this day. Everything, including and foremost the Magna Carta Libertatum from 12,015. That led, of course, to common law. They had enough of tyrant and blood and dictator, so they basically tried their king. Some people will claim it was made under threat and duress. Well, no, the idiot was just robbing from his people, sending them to war after war, taking their produce, conscription and all sorts of stuff like that. He was basically a tyrant, so they stopped him. And they really, yes, they forced them, but by then it's either you're just ending up into jail or you sign the document recognizing you have no power over the people. That where is the term free man come from? It's recognized in the Magna Carta. So there's 800 years of history of blood, tears, sweat, and all these type of things to stop tyranny. I'm not about to give about such a good tradition. We did suffer, we did cry, we've sweated, we've bleeded, but we're not going to stop. Free people and no free men on the land. This is a term they've invented as an insult because we were not obeying their order, but I'm not part of the Freeman Society or in any way, shape or form. I am a constitutional monarchist, and if you tell me otherwise, that's not an insult. That's just you being idiot. But if you tell me I'm not a constitutional monarchist, then that's an insult to me. So, and you'll have to answer and prove it, because I sleep with the Constitution as my pillow, and I use this flag as a sheet to cover me. So, let's get into it. So many significant documents are available to help us understand the history of Canada. If in doubt about the authenticity of the validity of the Magna Carta and the Bill of Rights, as the Tobin judgment has clearly described these as constitutional which are immune from implied repeal. This means that no legislation subsequently enacted can in any way alter the legal efficiency. Remember, Magna Carta 1215 predate Parliament, and therefore has no authority to abrogate or repeal them. We do agree that when we're reading the Magna Carta, some articles are really, they're still there, they're still valid, but nothing you can do with it. One of the articles saying that it was, I think, King John back then in 1215, he had to give a bunch of hostages. I mean, those hostages, they died 750 years ago. How can we put that together today? So, some articles are still valid, unapplicable today. So it's the same thing. Some article only apply, like the 12 baron thing, only apply in Britain. We don't have 12 baron in Canada, so how can we make that happen? We can't. But we can certainly convene 12 citizens, and they can take decision. So here we go. The Act of Unions. This is why, this is the high point of interest, why we're here today. This is the 1840 Act of Union that formed the Upper Canada and Lower Canada that merged into United Canada. Didn't form province of Ontario and Quebec per se. Provinces are nothing in the end. They exist, but it's not like in the United States. Provinces are not sovereign. It's not province that comes together that creates Canada. It's the other way around. Canada is one sole entity which is split into local jurisdiction, enabling their power. In other words, their children. Children can never emancipate from their parent. They will all, even if they're not under their authority or direct control, they cannot emancipate. I'll still be your mother if you were born as my child. You don't have to call me for everything. You can do your own thing in your own house, but when you're separating the power with me, there are things you can't do. You gotta consult with me. I'm still alive, I'm there, and those are my power. Those are yours. So this is how it works. Act of Union was passed by the British Parliament in July 1840 and proclaimed 10 February 1841 a united colony of Upper Canada and Lower Canada under one government, creating the Province of Canada, now known as the Country of Canada. In 1864, which leads us to the BNA Act, some people who know nothing will tell you otherwise, but here's the fact. This is a very Canadian document. It was written in 1864, in October to be precise, in a place called Quebec City, for those who know where that is. So the Quebec Resolution, also known as the 72 Resolution, were a group of statements written in the Quebec Conference of 1864, which laid the framework for the Canadian Constitution. Not the other way around. People will say, oh, that came from the British Parliament. Yeah, but the original document comes from us. So people, just like today, they convene in a place and they say, we better write our own constitution before they do something we don't want. Because back then, they would travel by ship, take 3 weeks, go across the ocean. How can they govern a country they never saw? So the Canadian people sat in that conference. They got together with 72 resolution, which ended up being the BNA Act. So it's a very Canadian document in the end. So the Constitution that's something that we have learned from the grand jury. The Constitution, the BNA Act, and the Charter of Rights and Freedom from 1982 was never properly signed. They failed on April 17, 1982, then again at Meech Lake in 1987, and then they fell again in Charlottetown in 1992. So just like they say in baseball, 3 strike, get a walk. And it doesn't matter if you throw dust at the referee, if you spit on his shoes, if you give him shit, or if you throw him a hot dog. You're still out. So this is the way it works. This is where we stand today. They're out, and the next batter comes at bat. And it happens to be me. I've got a big bat. How can they repatriate a constitution in 1982 when all the provinces have not agreed to sign? The Constitutional Conference on Canada, Meech Lake and Charlottetown subsequent to 1982 have failed to gain consent by signature, free and voluntary as required by the Constitution. The whole process failed because the national state of Quebec was already de facto since 1968 at the very least, which was the story Angèle told you earlier. They disbanded the Legislative Council, they could not sign the Constitution. Therefore, the representative of and from Quebec who showed up there had no legal ground to stand on, because not only did they not abide by the Constitution at that point, but also they were a member of the illegal government. So René Lévesque, for as much as I think of him, he provided this ground today to out them out. To me, he's absolutely no hero. I won't tell you what I think of him. The whole process failed. No, I've read that. The Constitution Act 1982 contains the Canadian Charters of Right and Freedom and other provisions, including the procedure for amending the Constitution of Canada. Why are we ready to accept the Charter of Right and Freedom when it comes from the Bar Association? Because in the end, it's a good document. When you read the Constitution, some people who know nothing, who've never read it, will tell you it's a piece of trash. Well, I've read it over and over and over again, and I've read Constitution from other countries. You want to get a republic? Go to the United States, you'll have a failed republic. You want to go get another one? Go to France, they've got 5 failed republic. China is a republic right now. Why don't you go and try it out there? You want to even better? Go to the SSR, see how much good it do to live in a republic. When you're one of the 330 million who got murdered by the liar-in-chief. So, yeah, I invite people who wants a republic to just take a one-way Air Canada flight to any republic in the world, and they try to do their country there. Because this is our country, this is a constitutional monarchy, it was there before you were born. We got fooled by the Quebec Bar Association and company to believe it was bullshit, but of course some people have grievance and reason to whine about the system that there is now, but they fail to realize it's a corporation system. So your grievance is probably true, but don't blame the constitutional monarchy. You've never had it. It was never properly enacted. It was just an act of theater. So, more about the Constitution that wasn't. I'll let you read that one shortly. I'll take, where's my can somewhere? Or my coffee. So read that one shortly. It's part of the, how we can modify the Constitution subsequently to today. done. Alright, here's a little historical picture from 1982. You can see that this lady, who I don't know who she is, but anyway, no comments, but she has her pen on the paper. You can see Mr. Trudeau there, famous Quebec Association lawyer, who sold himself to whoever he did. And a bunch of witnesses, all pretending and all lying straight into your face. Why would we know we lie? That they lying? Look at the next picture.
They're all smiling, huh? They're all smiling.
Alright, this is what she was signing. Anybody know anything about contract law? Anything that is below your signature on a contract is not part of the contract. She only signed the preamble, which is only 5 lines. That doesn't make a country. It says, to us Canadian, salute. Here. The proclamation is here, signed by André Ouellette, and by the way, Jean Chrétien signed there as well, so salute. Greetings.
Yeah.
She never signed the Constitution, yet she pretended it's the head of state. The head of state must sign down at the bottom of the document after the Parliament has debated about it. So that's all she signed. This is the official seal and everything. So there was no Constitution in 1982, it was only theater. And you all believed it. But belief are contrary to fact. So you believe all you want, I've got the fact to prove it and back it. So believe all you want, we don't have a Constitution, we don't have a place called Canada, and it's been going on 88 years. Everything was just powder in your eye. So I'm going to read and to show you that even though they've pretend and enact and they've done stupid things, that is still a good document, the Charter of Rights and Freedom. That's why we're going to be ready to accept it. If you read the following 3 articles in this order, you'll understand very easily. Let me read them to you. Start with number 52, Primacy of the Constitution of Canada. The Constitution of Canada is the supreme law of Canada, and any law that is inconsistent with the provision of the Constitution is, to the extent of the inconsistency, of no force or effect. So anything they write that goes against the Constitution, even though they write it and they pretend it's law and they try to shove it down your throat, is in fact invalid when you refer to the Constitution. So like Quebec, for example, has their own local, I hate to call it provincial because it's no province, they're a criminal corporation, have their own Constitution. It goes all the way against the Constitution of Canada. Nothing is valid. Do I need a trial? No, it's invalid per Constitution. So out you go. Let me read the next one. Here's how you are not subject of the king, but the king is subject to you, and he owes to you. Article 32, application of this charter, of course, is the Charter of Rights and Freedom and the Constitution of Canada. This charter applies A, to the Parliament and Government of Canada in respect of all matter within the authority of Parliament, including all matter related to the Yukon Territory and Northwest Territory, and B, to the legislature of a government of each province. We've done a little mistake about text here, but you can read the original in the Constitution itself. So where does it say that you're a subject to the Constitution? Nowhere. It's their rule. Therefore, back in common law, you have only one rule that applies to you. Do no harm. Nothing applies to you when it comes to their law. Nothing. Not even the criminal code. Of course, that doesn't allow you to take a knife and go and murder your neighbor. That's a crime in common law. That does not authorize you to, no, the Constitution law don't apply to me, I can go to Canadian Tire and steal a bunch of things. No, that's theft. It's their stuff, their property. You can't do it. So for as long as you do no harm, you act in respect in the other human, there's no law that applies to you. Of course, if you engage in commerce and you have a farm, and you have a license, well, you better obey the law of the farm. Or the fishery law, if you're going fishing under a license. But if you're taking a fishing rod on any given Sunday and you take one fish for yourself and you don't just throw it in the wood, you really eat it at home, the guy from the Park Service, he can't come to you and say, oh, you've been fishing without a license. I'm not in commerce. I'm going to do that because I'm going to feed myself. But of course, if you go with a fishing boat and you grab 1,000,000 salmon, with the intent